Thank you for tuning back in to the WHTOO's channel. I'm Raynard Burrell, your content creator, and today we have music executive producer Kevin Taylor, founder of KT Got Beats. And we're going to be having a deep dive conversation with him today, talking about the trials, the tribulations, how to navigate this music industry, especially with all the things that's been in the forefront about what's been going on in the music industry so far. But first, for those of you who don't know what WTOO stands for, WTOO stands for we have to own our own shit. Now, let me clear that up for some people might, oh, wow. But shit is an acronym. And that shit stands for SHYT. It's spelled a little differently. And the S stands for scalability because we don't just want to start a business, we want to grow a business. The H stands for honoring the ancestors whose shoulders we stand upon. The Y is you are your brand. A person is going to buy you before they buy any product or service that you present to them. And the T stands for tenacity because everyone knows that being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. And with that being said, let's do a virtual round of applause for KT. Here we have it. KT, thank you for joining us today, my good brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. Good to be here. Glad to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you was able to carve out some time. So let's jump right into KT Got Beats. It sounds self-explanatory, but can you give the audience a little insight on what KT Got Beats actually is and what it represents?
Yeah, so we're a music production company and we specialize in what I like to describe as creating soundtracks for storytellers. So I used to just say making music for artists, but we make music for artists, for motivational speakers, for TV, for film, for podcasts, for everything. So that's our specialty. And then I also have an arm called the No Box Collective where we coach and develop up and coming music producers, try to help them create sustainable careers out of this. So that's it in a nutshell.
All right. So what inspired you to go get into this?
So I come from a musical family. My dad he was a music producer, still is a musician. Now he just teaches piano mainly and does some gigs, but he was a touring musician. He toured with a couple of R&B acts like in the 80s, and things like that, and played at our church. So I grew up in church. He was the chief musician, so I was there many hours during the week, and also was playing around with all the cables and the keyboards and all those things. So music just comes naturally. Everybody in my immediate family plays some kind of musical instrument. But getting into production, I was inspired by in my era, the 90s and the 2000s, the Timbalands, the Pharrells, Dr. Dre's, just seeing the way that the music they created made people move, hearing it on the radio. I just really enjoyed that. And so I wanted to be a super producer like them. Um, and so I started making beats probably around the age of 11. I started taking piano at 6, but started making beats around age 11 on my dad's keyboards and putting those on CDs, taking them to middle school and high school, letting people hear them. And it just took, kind of went from there.
So with that being said, when did you realize I need to be an entrepreneur? This is the track for me.
Whew. So thinking about myself as an entrepreneur didn't happen until late. Um, I was just a guy who makes music, guy who makes beats, having fun with my friends, to get started. And that continued for a long time. It probably wasn't until about, I want to say 20, probably in the last 10 years where I started thinking about I'm an entrepreneur and I'm creating a business and not just making music. And that actually helped when it came to money, when it came to opportunities, because, as I mean, very well, and the different things you've been a part of, it's one thing to kind of be like a freelancer where you're just like a hired, service. And it's another thing to have a business that you build where you can operate without you. You can pay people different things like that. So that's been in the last 10 years, kind of instead of just looking at myself as, hey, I make beats, call me when you want me to make beats, developing products, developing um, services, even bringing in people that I hire that can do things on my behalf. That's all. I'll probably say 2015, 2016 is when I started changing the way I thought about that.
All right. And so now that you have changed from being a freelancer to actually being an entrepreneur, what have you, what does owning your own shit mean to you? And what was the difference that you noticed from, okay, I'm a freelancer and I'm doing this to no, the buck stops with me now?
Oh yeah. Well, so to answer that first question, what does it mean? It's everything. I can think of two main things that ownership really means. One is that I get to really set the vision and the philosophy of not just like how we do things, but why. So I get to decide I don't want to do this project because I don't believe in what they're doing, or I do want to do this one because it's aligns. That's huge. And then also the opportunity to give others opportunities is like a joy that I didn't know would be a part of, this whole entrepreneurship like experience. Being able to bring in up and coming producers or engineers or even um, photographers or whomever it might be and say, hey, I got an opportunity for you. It can, I can pay you. I can get you some exposure. I'm gonna make sure your name is known, this and that. Um, that's beautiful. And especially, in our community, I think it's pivotal that if we have those opportunities and we have that power, that we're able to kind of invest it back into the community.
So earlier you mentioned something about even being able to pay people.
Mhm.
Um, what has it been like, or how has the access or lack of access to capital um, assisted you, stunted you, or gave you some temporary roadblocks? How has that affected your development and the scaling of your business?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, as far as access to capital, so for this particular company, KT Got Beats, I haven't looked to take on or to acquire like outside capital before, but I have founded and co-founded music tech startups where we were taking investors and things like that, and that journey was extremely difficult as far as figuring out how to acquire that capital, how to influence people to want to give you capital. For KT Got Beats, because of the nature of the business with it being us creating like a product music and then being able to license that, sell that, it's almost like a digital product. So it doesn't require as much upfront capital. But what I wish I did consider earlier on as far as capital is um, setting up the systems and even like studios and places like that to be able to create a hub for these people to work. Then I could bring in people I could hire people. I could have a centralized location for different things. So that's something I didn't think about before uh, co-founding that startup is how capital can accelerate what you're trying to do, and you don't have to necessarily chip away at it from the ground up. It's
Mhm.
slowly.
So, from doing my research, I see that you won the 2025 Gold Addy. Am I pronouncing that correctly? The Gold Addy. Um,
Hmm.
tell the viewers about that, and then I want to put a pin and go back to seeing because we're both based here in Atlanta, and how did you overcome or penetrate the industry with it being, somewhat people will look at, oh, it's oversaturated because like
Hmm.
everybody says they're into the music industry and things like
Yeah.
that. What did you do to differentiate yourself from the masses?
Yeah. So as far as the Gold Addy, so that's an award for excellence in advertising. So we do a lot of music for advertising for commercials, and we did a spot for Church's Chicken last year, it was a little bit over a year ago now. That really captured a lot of people's attention because we were able to bring in with a couple of partners of mine, like people from the community, some actual battle rappers that really do what they do. These weren't actors, paid actors, but we really created this organic vibe in this advertising and created original music for that. And so we won an award for that, which I'm proud of. I think it was an excellent ad. And then your second question is, remind me again, the second part of that question.
Oh, with being in Atlanta, the
Oh yeah,
quote unquote
breaking through.
perception of being oversaturated and then you breaking in.
Yeah, so I'm from Birmingham, Alabama originally. I moved to Atlanta in 2013, and I was 23 at that time. So I kind of felt like I could do whatever, I could do anything. But
Invincible.
coming invincible, but coming out to Atlanta, yeah, there's a lot of I mean, I came out here because it was quote unquote saturated. I came out here because there was movement and motion happening. And I believed in myself enough at the time to say, if I can get in the right rooms or talk to the right people, I'll be able to, to make an imprint on this industry. But I think the way that I differentiated myself was primarily through relationship building and also being open to pivot and serving different roles where it made sense. So, and that includes even for my music. So I initially, like I said, I'm influenced by Timbaland for real. These people, I just want to produce artists. I just want to be in the studio, write songs, create music, and put that out. When that wasn't working as effectively as I would like for it to, then I had to start looking at other ways to build relationships and also other ways to utilize my music. So that's when I started looking at TV and film as a way to, okay, I can at least maybe make a little money. I can get my music out there. Um, scoring short films, little indie short films. I engineered a lot, so I recorded artists, whether it was at my house or at another studio. So I wore any hat, almost every hat I wore at some point, and that helped me build the relationships with people and just kind of show that, I'm really doing this because I'm passionate about it and not just to extract some money, because that is also a part of the reputation sometimes of the industry is that somebody's just coming in to extract from you. So I think I have a way of making people feel comfortable and at ease when I work with them. And I think that ended up becoming my superpower is when you work with me, I'm gonna bring the best out of you. It's gonna feel comfortable and we're gonna, create a great song, great product, whatever it might be. And so that's what I feel like my kind of secret weapon was.
So, what was one of your biggest, let's say, failures or biggest shocks that you didn't anticipate when you got into the industry? It's like, wow, like, oh, reality check, this is a business. And then how did you come over? And I know I've been giving you these double up, these two different questions simultaneously, but from our conversation, I know that you had the mental capability to handle it. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, biggest shocks are like probably that. Well, I would say the first thing was I thought it was just all based on talent. I thought the bet
mm,
if you're good, you'll be in there. So I spent a lot of years just trying to be the best producer, or I guess showcase that I had the chops or whatever. I used to come out here 15 years ago, like doing beat battles, which was, I play my beat, you play your beat, and the crowd decides who has the better beat. And so I had the mentality that if I just am the best, then all the opportunities will come to me, etc. And kind of like a little bit of an old school mentality when it comes to music industry where I'll get discovered almost, like if you will. And so the biggest shock was doing showcases, doing all these battles, whatever it might be, and realizing people that I thought or perceived weren't as good as me they were out of here. And I was like, well, how is this happening? And I'm realizing it's the relationships, and I'm realizing also it's just showing up consistently, just being there, being a good person. Um, all these things are actually probably prerequisites to the talent because if people don't like being around you or working with you, or if they don't know you, then you may not get the calls that you think you might get, you should get. So that was a big shock. Is just it's not really about like being the best. There's a community here, and you got to make yourself a part of the community, and then things will happen. So I overcame that by yeah, just instead of trying to compete, I was just coming in and collaborating. So I would come in and I would find a producer that I thought was dope, whether I thought he was better than me or I was better than him. It wasn't about that. It was about, let's collaborate, let's do something together. Let's even even outside of music. Let's let's go have some lunch. How's your son? What's going on with that house repair that you're working on? Those kind of things. And I think that has really like taken me the furthest when it comes to being in quote unquote a saturated market. It's just, you just become a person that people look forward to seeing, and when you come around, they feel a little better. So,
That ties into what my background from being a wealth management planner and things of that nature. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
yep,
And a lot of times people lead in with the we say that station WIFM, what's in it for me.
that's in it for
And
me. Yep.
when you come in and you looking to see what you're gonna do, what you're gonna do for yourself, opposed to what you can do for someone else, you tend to get those roadblocks and barriers. I tell everyone, a closed fist lets nothing out, but it also lets nothing in.
Yep.
So you have to be a giver, and so yeah, that's key. So I want to get into because my everybody who knows me know that my dream was I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be in
Okay.
Hollywood. I used to do impersonations and all that kind of stuff.
Oh
I used to
man.
host some of our fraternity. I used to do Kappa comedy jams and
Oh yeah.
be an MC. So what and how did you react? Because we know in order to be successful, we've all had failures. So when you had your biggest failure, what was it? And then how did you come defeat it mentally to keep on persevering to get into the space you're in now?
Whew. I mean, I've had so many failures on this road and pivoted from all of them. But so I'll give you, I guess, a big one. I don't even know if it's the biggest one, but let's see. Probably honestly just the music tech startup. So me and a longtime friend of mine from Alabama, we co-founded a music tech startup, and it was around music publishing, trying to automate the process for people to be able to get their royalties. And we raised a good amount of money, and it lasted for maybe about in real terms of operating probably 2.5 to 3 years. And then, but during that time, I had left a job. I had a 9 to 5 gig. I was doing fine uh, there, and I took the opportunity to do this. During those 2.5, 3 years, I didn't make almost any money. We probably made 20, $30,000 a year personally from that. And then eventually we ran out of runway from the investors and everything. And so I had to figure out, uh, first of all, like, you know, what do I do next? Second of all, do I still want to be involved in music? Um, all these different questions. I'm married, so, you know, these are, it's not just like a personal, I'm living on my mama's couch. Figure it
Right,
out. You gotta face somebody every day.
right.
So that was probably a point where I really had to decide, like, okay, I need to build a business. Like, this can't just be, I'm doing music for the sake of doing music. And so from that point, I kind of started to rebuild and re-strategize like KT Got Beats and what it was all about and how we operated. Um, I ended up getting a kind of like this product consulting gig with with another global music tech company that I still do now with them. That helped me kind of get back on my feet. KT got beats. Around that time, I'm just letting people know, where I'm at, and I get a phone call from a close friend of mine, a longtime friend as well, who ended up being a creative director at a ad agency, and he was like, "Hey, we're working on these commercial advertising spots for these brands, and I know you're a dope producer. Are you still doing music?" I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Well, I would love to use some of your music for these ad spots." And so everything, literally within about 3 months, I got the consulting gig, got that phone call, and everything started turning around as far as, income was coming in, some steady income, some nice, checks outside of that. And I'm re-strategizing Casey Got Beats in the form of a more business, operate more of a business rather than just like a music production service, if you will. And so, probably within about 6 to 12 months after shutting down that music tech startup and having no money, being in debt, etc., everything had turned around. Um, I had done multiple spots, commercial spots. I got this consistent gig where I'm helping this music tech company with their products and my personal business, I'm starting to think about how can I bring in other producers, up and coming producers, writers, et cetera, and give them opportunities to make money as well. So that was a big shift in as far as like in my business life and my personal life, a lot of things.
Bringing those checks in make your personal life a hell of a lot better. Believe you me,
Absolutely.
I can speak to that being a entrepreneur for going on 35
Mm,
years now. So, hey, those
yeah.
ups and downs, those ebbs and flows, when those big checks coming in, it makes it a lot easier to come home and have a smile on your face and still be able to get a
Absolutely.
bite to eat. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now you've been very humble, and there's nothing wrong with doing a little bragging. Like I looked and see you work with some major players. You mentioned Church's Chicken, but
Mhm.
you've had some major companies that you've been affiliated with and work with. How were you able to, penetrate that market? And hey, if you want to drop a few names, we ain't gonna hold it against you. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of these companies, whether it's ESPN, whether it's a lot of different shows on TV and some background music, Netflix shows and things like that. Um, a lot of it is relationships still. I mean, that's just like that cliche that never goes away. You know, if you are good at dealing with people and people like dealing with you, it helps. I honestly, what I realized from the advertising industry was, in particular, was your music really, you ain't really even got to be that great. You really ain't even got to be that great. I mean, you got to do good work and you got to be reliable. You got to be consistent and you got to be organized and all those things. But as far as like your talent, you don't have to be the most talented person. And I still think I'm pretty talented, but I mean, a lot of the music that I've created for these shows has been fairly easy for me to do. Um, and so having those relationships, I literally will go on LinkedIn, find a creative director or a producer and say, "Yo, let me take you to coffee. I don't know you, but I've seen you worked on these projects. I've done that a handful of times and just meet them at a coffee shop on their side of town, and we just talk and laugh, and not even that's that much about the work, but they'll see that I do good work, and I'll see that they do as well, and I make myself available, and so those create more and more opportunities, and then word of mouth helps as well. So yeah, at the end of the day, um, you gotta you gotta make yourself available for sure, and you still gotta do good work, but your reputation will grow like inside the industry, and once people trust you, especially in this industry, that you're not going to do something that's going to put them at risk or make them liable, then they'll just keep calling you. They'll just keep calling you back because they know how the process is going to go. They know they're going to get quality work. And so I just try to continue to maintain that.
It's one thing you said again. People do business with who they know, like, and trust, and that's what it simply boils down to. And so, I got a couple more before I let you go. That what does one Black excellence mean to you?
Ooh, what does black excellence mean? I I believe our default is excellent. I think what
Mm,
happens is we end up, things happen, our environment, challenges, whatever it might be, and then we kind of we fall out of that excellence. But I think by default, we are excellent. The standard at which we do things is at a high level. Especially, I'll just speak to in the music world, right? I mean, we're the originators of much, much, much of the music that exists now. That is
correct.
us. That's our standard. And so I think what happens is we have to. I think the purpose of community, and I learned this from different African authors and people. I think the purpose of the community is to remind you who you are, remind you you are excellent because of who you are. And things can take us away from that. But I think by default, we do things at an excellent level. We take our crafts serious, we take our business seriously. We take the way that we impact the community very seriously. And so I think we just have to remember that this is who we are and this is how we operate. And if we fall out of line, which we all will, then we utilize, hopefully we have a great community around us to remind us, hey, this ain't your best. Let's get back to who we are and what we do.
Keeping you
So,
accountable.
mhm.
So, with that being said, and you mentioned the different times you've reached out to different collaborators, different collaborations, do you purposely seek out or feel responsible to make sure that you're doing business with other African Americans?
Yeah. Sometimes subconsciously and sometimes very intentionally. Um, I will when I'm thinking about opportunities or collaborations in my network, by default, I'm gonna try to figure out who I can find that's African American that I can work with or give this opportunity to. And then if I just come up with nothing or whatever, and I need to reach out to that, then I'll see who else I can reach out to. Fortunately, we are in Atlanta, so that almost never happens. Maybe in certain instances, certain genres or whatever it might be, but I almost always can work with an all black team, which I love to do. And that's from multiple aspects, from the writers to the engineers to the mixing engineer to the vocalist to whomever it might be. Um, we're in Atlanta, so I'm able to find like all those people. And I almost never have to stray from that unless it's like maybe like a genre like way outside of our norm or something. But yeah, so that's a luxury I have being here.
All right. And so, what would young Kevin, who was just branching into the world of being an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
wish you would have known prior to getting into it that you figured out along the way? And what would you have talked to? What would that older Kevin talk to that young Kevin about?
So, first of all, this is always a great question because it's just like hindsight. And actually, for up and coming producers, I actually created a course around this on No Box Collective. It's called the Music Producer Power Start. And all it is just basically all the things I would have told myself,
Okay.
from the beginning. But as far as related to entrepreneurship in particular, and I had this as one of the lessons in the course, which is um, think like a business, hustle like a freelancer. So I wish from the beginning I would have thought of myself as a business, you know, you're not just a guy who can make music or whatever. You're a business entity that provides products and services to whomever. And so thinking about it from that lens, I think from the beginning would have made my career much more sustainable early on because then you're thinking in business terms. You're thinking about profit, you're thinking about loss, you're thinking about marketing and revenue and all these different aspects of business that help you stay afloat and grow, like you said, to scale. I wish I would have thought about that from the beginning and not just I just want to make beats. Um, and but at the same time, you still got to hustle like I say hustle like a freelancer because you still got to go out and find clients, go out and find business. Sometimes you might have to do something for a little bit less money to get in the door or do it for free or whatever it might be. You still got to hustle that way, but just to consider yourself as a business. So there's a lot of things I would tell my younger self, but that I think that one would have allowed me to build a sustainable life sooner, you know, um, give myself more opportunities to have more wealth and all those things years ago. So that's a big part of it.
And so, and again, I appreciate this time and this opportunity. What do you want our audience to walk away with knowing about Kevin Taylor Jr., KT Got Beats, any other um, project that you're working on? And what do you want us to take away from this session today?
So as far as I have kind of like a philosophy that I developed maybe like in 2018 because was trying to hoop and be like Kobe and ruptured my Achilles and I had to sit down for a second. And it's called no box or There is no box. And the thought process behind that is that never tell yourself that you're stuck where you are. There's
Mm.
always a way you can pivot or change something and move, to the next season or whatever it might be. And the reason I thought about that at that time is because I had ruptured my Achilles, so I was just sitting around and I was like, man, fortunately, I'm not an NBA player. I'm not a professional basketball player, so this doesn't like end my career. But I was thinking, what if I was? What would I do next? And how would I feel? Like, would I think, "Yo, this is it? That's my life? Or what would I have to do? I would have to figure out, okay, well, who else am I outside of that? If I, as a producer, I'm like, what if I would have hurt my hands or had a lost my hearing or something like that that affects who I am and what I do? I would have to figure out who I am next. And we can always do that. So whenever you feel stuck, like, well, this didn't work out, so I guess that's it. You can always pivot, you can always reinvent yourself and figure out the next move. And even if that's not related to what you did last, it doesn't matter. If I decided that all of a sudden I wanted to start building houses, there's no rules against that. There's no laws telling me that because I spent all these years doing music, now I can't do that. So I would encourage people that if something you're doing is not been working or whatever, don't be afraid to pivot and to find the next thing, whether it's related or not related. There's no forget what everybody else might tell you, but like, I thought you was a music. Forget that. Just move on. Go ahead and move on to the next passion and next endeavor that you have.
On that note, that's a mic drop. And I hope what the audience took away, because what I took away was two key themes: relationships and the ability to pivot. To be successful, you have to be flexible. You have to be able to do what's working for you and being smart enough to know, hey, if this is not working right now, let me pivot to do something else. KT, thank you for your time, man. I look forward to us reconnecting. I appreciate you. And hey, as always, remember with WHTOOS, we have to own our own shit. Talk to you next time.